So without upsetting all of the other lovely contributors to this e-course, I'm glad to say I've saved the best till last, and we've got Natasha to talk us through the final video, all about her experiences of self-employment. So, I mean, really, if you just want to kind of, we talked a lot earlier on about the jobs you've done and how you got into them. I just think it'd be very interesting to share what then, led you into leaving employment and going off into the, I guess, sometimes scary and more uncertain world of self-employment, but why that worked for you.
It's funny because it wasn't ever planned either. I mean, that's what I think is exciting about it. The initial, it wasn't planned. It just kind of happened. I had a great career, 14 years at the BBC. My final attachment or working for the BBC was at the BBC New York office, and it was amazing, to be out in New York and have the dream and the great apartment and the support and running an office, running a team, and traveling all over America, which is what I was doing for a year.
Sounds terrible.
And then suddenly the BBC said, I know, terrible, but somebody's got to do it, And suddenly the BBC said, you know what, Tash, it's time for somebody else to have that, the great job, the plush this, the blah, blah, blah. And I just thought, you know what, thank you, but I don't want to come home. And I just felt that at that time, I wasn't ready to kind of just come back to BBC Birmingham or Bristol or London and just pick up a show after having such an amazing career. And I thought it was time for me to chase something that I've always wanted to do, which was actually to pursue a performing career and writing career. So initially, it was a year out. I went back and I did some study. I studied at Universal Studios at an academy there, actually on site, which was pretty exciting in LA.
Definitely.
And then I came back home and I started to write a stage play, Rolling with Laughter, which is my play, and that's how I fell into being self-employed initially, because obviously it was very complex, and I got to set up a production company, which I did, but I kept myself as a sort of self-employed person, and I started to do speaking engagements and was writing both for television, and then got picked up during my performing career to write for the UK Film Council. So that meant, there was money coming in. There was, offers on the table of kind of just sort of, some of them were small fees, some of them were larger fees. So I needed to be self-employed. So I, of course, got myself an accountant, as you do. I need to be smart about these things. And I started to realize as well that, I was doing a lot of typing, a lot of writing, which was new for me. So although my job in management at television was always hectic, it was throughout firing off emails or answering the phone, so it was pretty full on or on set or dealing with issues, but I had to be quick thinking. Yeah. But suddenly I was actually based at home and writing, and a lot of sort of, going down to meetings now and again and doing bits and bobs. But I then got some work television presenting, which meant that I was doing actually out a little bit more. And I realised that I wanted a little bit more support, perhaps with typing, and carrying things as well that was more work-based as opposed to being with a PA who did tend to do my care. So I really enjoyed and embraced self-employment and went to the employment service, who backed me with support workers, etc. So I can't recommend it highly enough for those that are afraid of doing so. I thought I was going to be out on a limb. And actually I wasn't. And, from leaving a huge corporation, which initially, as I said, was just for a year. I was going to take a year out, go do a bit of study, go meet some wacky great Americans in LA, which I did, and then maybe come back to my office. The BBC was actually holding my job for a year. But eventually I thought, you know what, I've got to do it. And I think self-employment, it must be scary. And it was scary. I think once I'd made the decision that, wow, I'm totally alone here. But you know what? Yourself, Martin, I mean, you've just sort of gone on this journey yourself. I think it's something that you're passionate about. I think it's something that you can control. And I think you and I both discussed that it's really important that you can do work at your level without feeling, sort of like, oh, you're being watched, or necessarily, not that I ever was, but I think there is that feeling of, are you coping? And reality is that you can sort of manage your own work level at your level, and that's what I tend to do. Although I have to say, it's probably a bit more crazy now than it ever was at the BBC. But I know that I can manage it. So I know if I do need to take time out, or if I do need to just stop and rethink, that I can, because I'm my own boss, and I can take on projects if I want to, and I can actually turn them away or put them aside and think about them for a while, as opposed to, being in a corporation where I was told, that's the next job, Tash, go do it.
Sure, and I think what's really positive again about your whole story and approach is that in a way you went into self-employment more because it was where it made sense for your career or your general likes and ambitions and future sort of dreams and everything. Whereas, I think sometimes there's a concern that people with a disability might go into it just because it's more sort of suited for their disability. Yes. I think there's a balance that if it really has a lot of benefits as a disabled person, then roll with it. But equally, if you're happier in an employed job, that's fine. You just need to make sure you've got the support there. But
yeah, absolutely.
There are obviously a lot of benefits of being self-employed because you're able to manage your own times and projects, and with certain disabilities that can obviously be a benefit as well. So
I think you have to really push yourself as well. It's like in any role, communication is the key. Yeah. You're not going to get the work unless you do the job, unless you actually get yourself out there, as a freelancer, sell yourself. If I want to do speaking engagements, then I have to sort of think about often, right, I need to do some, I'm only getting one a month, I need some more, I need to pay the bills. Mm-hmm. So I kind of push myself out there and see what conferences are around, see where, and where I might be suited to go in and do a motivational speech. And it can often be with, Barclays Bank or HSBC. It's not always with the obvious plays. And I think you have to be motivated, but you're motivated for yourself. And I think there's something really, really exciting about and inspiring about that.
Brilliant. Well, thank you for all your input to this course, Natasha. It's been very, very helpful, and I'm sure all of the people using it have taken a lot away, both in sort of inspiration that anything is possible and lots of useful tips and hints as well. So thank you very much for your time, and I'll catch up with you again soon.
Thanks a lot.